Amsterdam is the capital and also the most populous city in the Netherlands. Located at the mouth of the Amstel River with an intricate canal system. And having a glorious past of maritime trade and adventures, it has long been dubbed the Venice of the North. However, Amsterdam also has a long tradition of openness, freedom, and tolerance. It is perhaps the most liberal city in the world, where you can openly smoke cannabis and use the services of sex workers. Amsterdam's Red Light District is also considered the world, namely the Wallen, Singleview, and Royselke. Among them, the Wallen is the oldest and most famous area for tourists. Its reputation is so widespread that even those who have never set foot here can imagine the rows of dimly lit windows along the canal. But despite its centuries-old history, this iconic red light district is facing the risk of closure due to a series of reform regulations by the local government. So why does Amsterdam want to build a new red light district, while the old location attracts millions of visitors each year? Join 5Boy to find out in today's video. The history of Amsterdam's Red Light District. Right in the center of Amsterdam is the famous Red Light District, the Wallen, a place with a rich history closely tied to the city's identity and people. Few know that before becoming a vibrant urban center like today, Amsterdam was once just a small village, as it was originally a wet peatland area. Its biggest turning point was the development of the Amstel River estuary after the All Saints. In a short time, the previously dry river turned into a wide estuary, giving Amsterdam convenient connections to other waterways. This river also evolved from a peat stream to become an intersection of international waterways. This led to the establishment of numerous new settlements here after 1170. The special thing is that from their founding, these settlements focused on transportation, production, and trade, rather than relying on agriculture like communities further upstream. Around the 1300s, Amsterdam was recognized as a city, and prostitution also began to appear in this area, with customers mainly being sailors bringing goods into the city. This activity was concentrated mainly in the Wallen, one of Amsterdam's oldest areas, meaning that prostitution in Amsterdam is as old as the city's history itself. From the 15th century onward, it flourished, with the establishment of an independent trade route to the Baltic Sea and becoming Europe's primary market for bulk goods. Among these, herring fishing brought the greatest wealth to the region, while laying the foundation for the transcontinental trade system of the Dutch Golden Age. Therefore, the Dutch often have a familiar saying, Amsterdam was built on herring bones. As trade grew, the city also expanded its size, and consequently, the sex trade also grew stronger, with numerous brothels and taverns opening in the Wallen. Initially, this situation was not opposed, but by the 16th century, it was banned and morally condemned due to the influence of the Reformation. At that time, the authorities were stricter about religious beliefs, and considered prostitution a sin that needed to be punished. From then on, views on prostitution have changed greatly throughout history, and have always fluctuated between legalization and the final blow to the sensitive activities in Amsterdam was in 1911, when the ban on brothels was enacted. This was the result of political cooperation between Orthodox Christians and feminist activists. Although most feminist activists today recognize prostitution as a legitimate form of work, that was not the case back then. They feared that if condoned by society, it would lead to an increase in the trafficking of women and children. Despite such challenges, the sex trade continued quietly, and even flourished, but in a more subtle form. Instead of practicing their profession openly on the streets, the girls are just standing behind the windows of the underground. Also during that period, brothel owners began using red lights to discreetly mark their base. From then on, this color has always been associated with sexual passion. By the 1960s, these activities had spread widely. The windows of the brothel also became clearer and smiled more openly. The activity of buying and selling love is also gradual, and received the support of the majority of political activists throughout the 90s. Finally, the ban on brothels was lifted on October 1, 2000, along with the Dutch government's decision to legalize prostitution. However, there is still a set of rules and conditions that people in the industry must follow. First and foremost, the individuals in flower selling staff must be licensed by the city government. In addition, hunting outside the designated area is strictly and therefore, romantic establishments are almost all concentrated in them. Other regulations in Amsterdam include a minimum working age of 21. And the flower-selling girls must be citizens of the European Union to prevent human trafficking. The exception is under the life of a local citizen here.
Amsterdam, Europe's rebellious city.
Since it was legalized over the past 20 years, Amsterdam's Red Light District has developed into a famous tourist attraction in the Netherlands, thanks to its location right in the city center, in a charming setting along the canal. This is perhaps the strangest and most fascinating black neighborhood in the world. Here, there are hundreds of small rooms flooded with neon light.
Is where prostitutes used to practice their trade.
They will stand behind a glass door in a seductive outfit to retain customers. The room with the curtains drawn means it is already occupied by Amsterdam's Red Light District is not just about prostitution but also includes sex, strip club and prostitution museum, etc. For those who are merely curious and do not enjoy direct interaction, they can choose the peeking booths. There, you will sometimes be offered promotional video recording service. If the dark alley isn't your preference, there are still some brothels and private houses, providing a more traditional form of buying it. Moreover, behind each window, there are not only women but also transgender girls. They will work on a dark blue project. Usually, the flower-selling girls here charge about $54 for 20 minutes, equivalent to over 1 million VND. That's not even mentioning the additional services that will incur extra costs, and the bill could quickly increase at any time. On average, each person working in the Black Rose District can earn between $220 and $600 per evening,
even up to $1,000,
and they often call it a fun night. Amsterdam is not only famous for its red light district, but also notable for its lenient regulations on prohibited drugs. Dutch law categorizes drugs into two types: soft drugs and hard drugs. Soft drugs include marijuana, sleeping pills, and sedatives, while hard drugs include heroin, cocaine, amphetamines, and ecstasy, etc. Accordingly, the sale of soft drugs primarily in coffee shops in the Netherlands will be accepted. However, this country strictly prohibits the circulation and use of hard drugs. Therefore, the coffee shops selling soft drugs in Amsterdam have become a familiar destination for tourists, and the Netherlands suddenly became known by a rather unfriendly name, the paradise of contraband. With such special services, the black neighborhood in particular of the Dutch capital has become a famous destination and provides pleasurable entertainment for tourists from many different countries.
Annually, Amsterdam welcomes over 19 million tourists and ranks 5th
among cities with the highest international tourism spending, with $13.6 billion in the consequences of developing the red light. Despite bringing high tourism efficiency and over $2.7 billion annually to the Netherlands, the red light district in Amsterdam still faces widespread opposition from local residents. They argue that over-tourism here has caused many surrounding areas to become congested and polluted. They may gradually get used to the noise, but cannot accept the nighttime door pounding by drunk individuals, along with littering and public urination that have marred the urban landscape.
For a long time, people turned a blind eye to what was happening in the red light district. But now things have exceeded the residents' tolerance. Moreover, with strict regulations surrounding sex services,
it was thought that the Dutch government has succeeded in creating a healthy environment for sensitive professions.
But reality is not so.
The girls working here still risk being looked down upon and treated poorly, even assaulted by those under the influence of bad substances.
And since most tourists coming to this area
are to satisfy pleasurable passions, there have been many cases of female tourists being harassed on the street. Brawls are also frequently recorded in Wallen, mostly stemming from drunkenness.
This situation is tarnishing the image of the Netherlands in the eyes of the world.
And if prolonged, it will affect the country's social security and order. Additionally, sex trade and drug use in the red light district lead to various other social evils, especially cross-border human trafficking. They connect with potential clients worldwide. According to reports from the Dutch government at South Wallen, over 24,000 people in this country have become victims of trafficking groups. Among them, about 4,000 have become victims of slavery and sexual abuse. According to the U.S. Department of State, the Netherlands is a source, transit, and destination country for trafficked men, women, and children. These victims mainly come from China, Nigeria, Hungary, and Sierra Leone.
Amsterdam is not just about the red light district.
Forgetting the bustling red light district, it's hard to find words to fully describe the poetic beauty of Amsterdam, where every small corner exudes magnificent and elegant, hidden in the form of ancient buildings and structures bearing the marks of time. The canals, bridges, and hundreds of old houses with brick red and heat brown colors are considered the most beautiful and romantic symbols of the city.
All of this makes any tourist who visits once fall in love at first sight.
After the romantic canals, the next place tourists head on
is Dam Square, located in the historic center of Amsterdam.
This is where the greatest historical architectural works of the capital are concentrated, and the gathering place for most major national events,
including the Royal Palace,
the National Monument, Newkirk Church, and Madame Tussauds Wax Museum.
Additionally, tourists have the chance to admire 17th century fortifications,
or stroll under the largest medieval wooden vaults in Europe, and immerse in a vibrant atmosphere of street performance.
Every minute spent in this famous city will bring you unforgettable experiences. And if it stopped here, Amsterdam would indeed be a dream city.
But when moving to the red light district, its previous ancient charm is completely overshadowed by the sensitive and liberal images of hot girls.
Therefore, since the 1900s, instead of being known as the Venice of the North, Sin City, where priests and married men are not allowed to enter
due to concerns about moral decline.
This is also one of the reasons why the city government increasingly wants to change the tourism image to focus on history, culture, and the untapped natural beauty. The campaign to relocate Amsterdam's red light district.
Amid public discontent and the disappointment of wholesome tourism,
in 2007, the city of Amsterdam announced Project 1012,
named after the postal code of the red light, aiming to restore the balance between its user
as a free, open city,
and maintaining public order and security. The first and most crucial step was ensuring an effective license.
From 2013 to 2016, all businesses
in the sex industry in Amsterdam had to apply for new licenses under stricter regulations. According to this urban renewal plan, over 115 prostitution in Amsterdam's red light district were clubbed, along with a series of new regulations aimed at reducing rising crime rates and fraudulent activities in the area. The regulations include penalties for using stimulants in public and requiring bars in the red light district to close at 2 a.m. instead of 4 a.m. as before,
while sex workers
are also not allowed to receive clients after. Additionally, the city council will launch it to deter tourists from coming here, solely for the purpose of using alcohol and substances, while also proceeding to vote on a regulation requiring sex workers to draw curtains and cover the glass door,
meaning that suggestive images will no longer be publicly displayed in Amsterdam.
Clients with needs will have to book in advance via a QR code on their smartphone, instead of interacting directly with the girls behind the glass.
This move aims
to change the image of the Dutch capital and prevent clients from abusing sex workers. However, sex workers in this sensitive have voiced opposition to the idea.
They argue that the new law makes
their work less safe, because it is harder to assess potential clients
and detect hidden risks. In response to this opposition, the city government claims
they're protecting the soul of the capital. They want tourists to come to Amsterdam
for its natural beauty,
the uniqueness in architecture and culture, rather than just having to wander around in a drug
and assault others.
It can be seen that Amsterdam is trying to lift tourists who only come to party, to maintain the quality of life for residents and attract more potential tourists. Recently, city authorities have also a plan to relocate red light district to another area located far from the center, where the population is sparser. Then, Amsterdam's entertainment district, a multi-level and enclosed entertainment. The design will not only include 100 rooms serving sexual needs,
a strip club and 2 bars,
but also include restaurants, shops, entertainment facilities, and even offices. Attracting both culture and food enthusiasts. The city council voted in favor of the new red light center in 2022, but the initial shortlist of 8 locations caused a wave of fierce opposition. Now, after deeper research and consultation with the police, 3 new locations have been proposed,
including Dockland Sport,
which is an area right next to a dock, in the Amsterdam Red District along the and accessible life area from Amsterdam. The other two locations are the Red Zoom
and Europa Boulevard,
both located near railway and transit in the Amsterdam Zuid district. This is a difficult choice for planners, because all three of these areas have their own advantages and disadvantages,
while Dockland Sport has cultural diversity.
Spacious space and relatively modern, it suffers from the inconvenience of ferries. As for the Red Zoom and Europa Boulevard, although they offer more convenient transportation,
they lack cultural vibrancy.
Moreover, all residents in these three oppose the construction of a sex education because they fear being disturbed by noise, crime, and negative impact. An even greater challenge of this project is the non-cooperation of sex workers, contrary to the authorities' belief.
These women argue that moving to a more private building would not ensure their safety.
On the contrary, it would make them feel more fit. Additionally, the proposed locations lack the potential of a traditional red light, so they would attract fewer customers. In fact, they even suggested an alternative, maintaining the infamous Wallen Red Light alongside establishing a new sex center. However, this proposal is certainly not above is some information about the world's most famous red light district. If you want to directly experience the vibrant
in these rooms, quickly head to Amsterdam.
As in the current situation, you could eat us goodbye and see you in the next videos.